KBLA Talk 1580 EWF in honor of director Charles Burnett. It's actually a tribute to his film Killer of Sheep and the musical weaving that happens in that picture. He will be joining us in the studio shortly. I am very excited about this conversation. This is one of those epic moments, I think, because he is just such a giant, an artistic giant. And I think that after all these years on the mic, and I've been here for a minute and a half, there are some moments that, you know, you really get to talk. I love everyone that I talk to. I love the people, even the people that get on my nerves. But when you get to talk to a giant and a person who's a game changer for the culture, for the movement, those are exciting moments, and this is one of those. So I hope you'll not only stay with me, but tell a friend, tell a foe, and join this conversation. And while we are awaiting the arrival of actor, writer, producer, iconic director Charles Burnett, I want to remind you that today is a big day in LA, and the LA City Council is going to be hearing the people's budget data that is going on at 1 p.m. today at City Hall in front of the Budget and Finance Committee. And that's 1 p.m. They want you there. So if you can come and make your voice heard, that would be a beautiful thing to do today in support of the people's priorities for what we are meant to be spending our budget dollars on. He's here. It's amazing. I'm so excited to have him live in the studio with me this morning. Wow, what an honor. He's an independent filmmaker, a screenwriter, cinematographer. I want to say activist, although I don't see it on the bio, because he's just been such a game changer in terms of bringing the movement to the screen. And his films, he's a key figure in the LA Rebellion film movement. He's actually an Academy Award winner, an honorary Academy Award in 2017, but so much more than that. Charles Burnett, thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's actually overwhelming, and I'm really glad you could come.
Thank you.
You know, I think when we think of Black arts and the whole melding of using art for liberation, if you will, we often think East Coast. We think about the Black arts movement in Harlem and all of the art and resistance that came out of that. But you're firmly planted in Watts.
Well, yes. Well, it's just about a mile west of Watts proper, actually. Because I went to, it was like grammar school in Watts, Garmin at the time. It was down the street from Jordan High School, and because I had a speech impediment, so that was the only school that had a speech class. So
really,
yeah. First I was going to 99th Street School, then because they didn't have a speech class, they transferred me over to Garmin, which is in Watts. But I lived in Town Avenue, which is about a mile from actually the proper district of what you could call Watts. Yeah.
Not far from Watts, and definitely not New York.
That's true. Yeah,
definitely not the East Coast.
No.
Yeah, and I really feel like, so I'm from the Bay Area, and I moved here and got adopted by LA, but I feel like Los Angeles, West Coast, the activism here, the consciousness and the art that goes with it is something that we don't hear as much about. You know, I think, I don't know, as a Bay Area person, I definitely underestimated the power of the resistance coming out of South LA.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Panthers were they had their beginning here, I think, Bunchy Carter and people like that. They had their own group of Panthers here. And,
right, of course, Oakland would push back and say, no, it started there.
See,
but they're both on the West Coast, right?
Yeah.
But, so how did you, talk about that, how you got to the place of being of, your art being firmly planted in our stories, our progress, our liberation.
Yeah, well, it was, it was during the civil rights movement, in the '60s, and you either had position that you were supposed to be doing something positive, and so because everyone thought, it was incumbent on us to have some say so in what was going on in the community, because L.A. It was very segregated here. When we first moved here, you couldn't cross, you couldn't cross Central Avenue, you couldn't cross Avalon, you couldn't cross Main, and so forth and so on. And we kept pushing, west, and so, just being here, most of the people, were here, like in Central Avenue, and and that was where, it was like it was a Harlem, so to speak, of this area, and so it was very exciting. I remember when the Rots Whites were
1965.
yeah, it started right near my neighborhood, and so it was times that you felt you had to do something. Yeah.
I feel like it's still kind of segregated. I mean, not obviously not as much as it was then, but I always call LA a city of exits. People stay in their freeway exit.
Oh yeah.
And I think Hollywood is maybe less segregated than it was back then, but it's still pretty separate.
Oh yeah. I mean, you couldn't even go into Inglewood. It was a sundowner town.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. In fact, on my deed here, when we bought a house here, up in View Park, and you you couldn't live in View Park.
You couldn't live in
No,
View
no,
Park?
no, you couldn't live in
Wow.
View Park. Like you couldn't live in Inglewood either.
The so-called Black Beverly Hills
Yeah.
was off limits
It's
for
off
us.
limits. It's on my deed. It's on my deed. It says you can't sell to non-whites, and
It's on your deed.
it's on my deed of my
But
house.
how'd you get the house then?
Well, no, it was kind of recent. It was like in 80, 89 that we bought the house over there, and I looked at the deed, and it said, "Don't, you're not supposed to sell it to non-whites," and I didn't want to buy the house at that point. But then but reason took over. It wasn't the house fault. It wasn't the property fault. It was the society. So
It wasn't the house's
No.
fault. It's hilarious. Happy belated, by the way,
Oh, thank
Aries
you.
in the studio. April 13th. Happy belated birthday to you.
Yeah.
So, obviously, the connection to the movement is organic, right? You're living in Watts. This is a time when all this stuff is happening, including the Watts Rebellion. The connection to the arts, to filmmaking, maybe seems more of a stretch, even though South LA is really close to Hollywood geographically. In some ways, it couldn't be further away in terms of access.
Yes, when the riots started there, and it was in the newspaper, it said, well, we knew more what was going on in China than we did in Watts. Because Watts, I remember when the freeway was built, you might say, and and they put these big walls up, when people, if they wanted to go downtown, they can go downtown without seeing what was going on in the black community, because it was so walled off, and so yeah.
But yet, you, through your journey, decided to become a filmmaker. I know you were studying something else, trying to get that normal job that we're always encouraged to get.
Well, actually, filmmaker didn't exist when I was coming up. In a sense, it did, but it wasn't for us. Let me put it that
Yeah.
way. And so I never thought about it. And in fact, when I went to film school, and they never did say that. And luckily, they didn't made it very clear that this wasn't a job for you. In fact, when I started in film, I was sort of embarrassed to say that I wanted to be a filmmaker, because I didn't even tell myself I wanted to be a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And so it was just by chance, because I thought I was going to be a photojournalist, and I remember getting a camera, 35 camera, for the first time because I was working at the downtown library and I was reading all these photojournal magazines, and so I got interested in that, and so I never told anybody that that's just what I wanted to be, and I was interested in documentary films, and so when I got into film school, I thought I was just going to be a hobby or something I was going to do on the weekends, and because there was no way to show your films here. If you didn't have a union seal on your film, it couldn't be shown in the theaters because the unions made it prohibitable to have being a filmmaker and showing your films in the theater. It just didn't happen, and so I never thought that was possible to do that. In fact, Hollywood was very segregated itself, because there wasn't very much you can do in the film, but later it became possible, But even then, I didn't expect to be making a living out of being a filmmaker.
Yeah, but you did go to film school. You did go to UCLA.
UCLA.
This is not that's a great school.
It is. It was very. In fact, I wanted to go to USC at first, because, and I applied over there, and they said, yeah, you can come in, but you have to pay your tuition fees first, and then you can apply for a loan. And I thought that I was really naive in many ways, because I thought that if you paid all your bills, didn't have any debt, you'd be perfect for to get a loan, And when I applied at UCLA, and they said, well, we can't give you a loan unless you have the money, to apply for tuition. But I said, I need to get in to apply for a loan. It was a sort of a
catch-22.
Yeah, it was a catch-22, and it didn't make any sense to me. Here I am without any debt at all, and I couldn't get a loan from the bank. So I just sort of gave up on it. But luckily, I called UCLA, and they were like, "Well, come on over." It was this, really free kind of attitude about, no, just come on over. And in fact, it was really good, because at UCLA at the time was only like $25 a quarter.
Wow, mind blown.
Yeah, and so that was really interesting. Also, the fact that it was sort of more of almost like a working man's kind of institution in many ways. Like I went to LACC first, and I was very, very pleased I did, because I met a lot of people and from all over the world, there, and it was like people that were so like, you might say, people that were more or less my kind of people, like working class, and I learned a great deal from all these new people that from all over the world, and so that I was very lucky in many ways to had gone this route, through LACC, which was actually, ironically, was originally part of UCLA. That was where UCLA originally was, over on Vermont, where...
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Charles Burnett is my guest, and we're talking films, we're talking art, we're talking an incredible artistic footprint on the culture. More straight ahead on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause pause. Until now, Dr. Bakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of Black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Jashana Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relational wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Ask yourself this question. Is it really worth holding on to that timeshare that you know you need to get rid of? Here's the truth. The average maintenance fee just went up over 17%. That could have been 117%, and there's nothing you can do about it. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check for annual maintenance and assessment fees. I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. For 15 years, I've helped over 50,000 families cancel their timeshare. Not sell it, not transfer it, cancel it. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment and your maintenance fees would never go up? That's a lie. Are you ready to get rid of your timeshare once and for all? Simply call us and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit that explains all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your timeshare exit kit. 800-242-1551. That's 800-242-1551. 800-242-1551.
Lots of places can expose you to identity theft.
Oh no.
That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity, which is way more than anyone can do on their own. If we find anything suspicious, like new loans or changes to your financial accounts, we alert you right away, all through text, phone, email, or the LifeLock app. Get the alerts that could make all the difference. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. Things are changing fast and no one knows what comes next. Times like these make you realize just how important it is to be prepared. That's where My Patriot Supply comes in. They're America's #1 most trusted resource for survival food, solar power, water filtration systems, and more. Go to preparewithamerica.com to unlock a special offer that'll help you get ready for whatever comes our way. Go to preparewithamerica.com to see the special offer right now. That's preparewithamerica.com.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
And what a great Friday. You're not just waking up with me, you're waking up with filmmaker Charles Burnett. You were saying, that you went to UCLA, and that's just the journey of ending up there, and weren't really thinking filmmaking might be a career just because it wasn't even accessible to us at all, us being black people, but also probably working class people, I would imagine as well. But you went ahead and made movies anyway.
Yeah.
You didn't wait.
No, it was sort of accidental because I made a thesis film at UCLA that sort of opened the door in many ways,
That's Killer of Sheep,
Killer
right?
Sheep, yeah.
Which is considered now one of the foundational films of sort of the American artistic body of work, right? I mean, it's been chosen list after list as one of the most important films ever.
Yes. Yeah.
That was your thesis at UCLA.
Yeah. And it was sort of unusual because it was totally unexpected, and in fact, when I was at UCLA making movies, that I was very lucky to have this teacher, Basil Wright. He did Song of Salon. He was a very famous documentary filmmaker that worked with people like Gerson and Robert Flaherty, documentary filmmakers, and so that was something I thought was very possible to do, but you weren't going to make any money off of it, because it didn't, it wasn't like a feature film where you get, it was something that it was something that you like to do, but if you wanted to make industrial films, you can do that, but not feature films. And but Killer Sheep sort of took off, and unexpectedly, and because when I was at UCLA, they had this. It was. I can get my thoughts. What it was that UCLA had this end of the quarter screenings of the best student films, and I didn't fit that mold, because it was about independent films. And at the time, UCLA had, it was when they had flower children and things like that, hippies and so forth, and they were making films about, their particular interests and things like that. And I didn't share the same idea what film was about. And this teachers, the writer I was talking about, Basil Wright, and the documentary filmmaker, told me, look, don't worry about what they were doing at Joyce Hall. Make your film, and be honest with the people that you're making a film about, And that sort of opened the door, and I said, well, that's what I want to do, right? Make films about the people in my community, which I totally respected, It was a time when older gentlemen would see you on the street and they would say, boy, stay in school and that sort of thing, which was very positive and very sensitive and had a lot of empathy for the kids in the community to see that they do well, And so I really appreciated that. And so I wanted to make films about those kinds of people, the people I lived in my neighborhood that was far from the images that you saw in Hollywood. It was a time too when when black exploitation films sort of dominated what you saw basically from what we were doing and what Hollywood was doing. Sort of distorting who we were as people. And you felt that part of your job was to make films that told the truth and gave you a different narrative that kept Hollywood perpetuating. And then when I started making films and getting films out there, documentary films, still wasn't for commercial use, but I started going to film festivals, and my films were entered in film festivals. And one of the good things that happened, there were people like Pearl Bowser, Oliver Franklin, who had this program that they had created this program where they would put these films in the community, in churches and things like that, and so we had really good feedback from the community because we screen our films and locally and things, and excuse me, give me water here.
Well, Killer of Sheep, I mean, you reference your professor who was a documentarian, and it has a little documentary vibe to it, but it is a narrative film. It
is.
And it's, I mean, that's part of what makes it probably so very innovative at the time. It's a narrative film, but it has a little documentary feeling to it. And watching it, it's like, even now, it's innovative because they're black people, they're working class people in their own neighborhoods just existing, existing and not getting blown up, shot at, stereotyped. But it's riveting still.
Yeah, I wanted to represent the people I grew up with, that I honored and really respected. And because you saw real people. And, for example, when I wanted to talk about or show human beings, I remember having my films in a film festival in Hawaii. And after the film was shown, and our audience asked questions and things like that, and one of the ladies said, I didn't know black people had washing machines. After seeing the Sleep with Anchor, and you get those questions, and I remember seeing screen my films in Indiana. And there was a white audience there. And they said, how come we don't see more films like that? And you said, well, they told us you didn't want to, you wouldn't understand them, and they said, well, no one asked us, and because they would say that, when I did Sleep with Anger, our audiences were saying, well, why don't, like I said, why don't we see more films like this, and ask questions that you would think that they would know. We all share the same, kind of like the things we want in our families and want to develop and things so forth. But they never see us as human beings that just wanted the basics of life, and provided for our kids to have the same opportunities. They never thought in those terms, because when you see films that were made basically by Hollywood about how they perceive us, and they generate that image, and that's what they carry away, because they don't live in the black community, and so they get their ideas and perspectives from these disturbing Hollywood films, like Birth of a Nation, for example.
Yes. Hold that thought, Mr. Burnett. We have news, traffic, and sports here. Hard stop at the bottom of the hour. But I can't wait to hear what you have to say about Birth of a Nation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. A Virginia judge is blocking certification of Tuesday's redistricting referendum, calling it unconstitutional. Virginia Democrat Congressman James Walkinshaw questions whether the election results will actually be upended.
I think it would be outrageous for the court to overrule the voters.
The measure would allow Democrats to redraw congressional maps ahead of the midterms. A Houston police officer has been relieved of duty after a racist video surfaced online. Authorities say Officer Ashley Gonzalez is under investigation after appearing to use repeated racial slurs, including the N-word, in the clip. The department says she's turned in her badge and gun. And R&B singer Brian McKnight has filed another lawsuit suing bloggers Tasha K and Mark Lamont Hill, along with others, over claims involving his late son Nico. He's seeking monetary damages. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams made it clear they want to get an early start on preparing for their future at quarterback. With the number 13 pick in the NFL draft, the Rams selected Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson, a player many draft experts did not project to go in the first round. Matthew Stafford was NFL MVP last season, but he turned 38 in February. The Rams know Stafford is nearing the end of a Hall of Fame career. In 15 starts at Alabama, Simpson threw 28 touchdown passes and completed 64% of his pass attempts. The Chargers used their first-round pick, number 22, on defensive end Akeem Messidor of Miami. Messidor led the Hurricanes with 12.5 sacks and 17 tackles for a loss. Apparently, the oddsmakers in Vegas have no respect for the Lakers. Despite trailing the Lakers 0-2 in the playoffs, the Houston Rockets are 8.5-point favorites to win Game 3 tonight in Houston. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Where the overlooked become unmissable, this is KBLA Talk 1580.
You better work.
She's rooted in culture and rising in power. Los Angeles City Council member Karen D. Price Jr. invites you to the District 9 Women's Leadership Summit, a powerful gathering celebrating the women who shape our communities. Join us Sunday, May 3rd from 1 to 6 p.m. Registration is open now, but space is limited. District 9 residents receive special priority. This event is free. Call 323-846-2651 to reserve your spot. That's 323-846-2651. Be rooted, be powerful, be there.
The joint will be jumping. Ebony Repertory Theater, in association with Fig Street Films, brings you one of the most beloved musicals of all time. Tony Award winner, Ain't Misbehavin'. The soulful, swinging celebration of the music of Fats Waller. From the rollicking to the romantic, this show is pure magic, full of the songs that defined an era and the voices that'll make you forget everything else for a night. Foot-stomping, heart-stirring, unforgettable. Don't miss Ain't Misbehavin' at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center, starring Lettucey, directed by Ren T. Brown. This is the night out you've been waiting for. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Grab yours now at ebonyrep.org or call the box office today at 323-964-9766. Ebony Repertory Theater, bringing the culture, keeping the legacy alive.
Ain't Misbehavin' runs May 21st through June 8th at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Get your tickets now.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
Charles Burnett is my guest, and we were talking about Killer of Sheep, and I guess, you know, the journey of that film from your senior thesis, it kind of got, you said, like community screenings, and then from what I read, there was issues with just clearing all the music, the rights to the music, and all kinds of other legal and technical business issues, and then it gets re-released, and then it gets revamped by UCLA, restored, I guess is the word.
Yes.
And now it's widely available. That must feel wild for you.
Well, it was, because, you know, it was a thesis film, and at the time at UCLA, if you didn't have to worry about the rights. Oh, I'm sorry. You didn't have to worry about the rights if it wasn't going to be shown theatrically.
Right.
And so you didn't have to spend a little bit of money buying the rights to the music. And so I just ignored it because it wasn't going to be shown theatrically. And then when Milestone picked it up and wanted to distribute the film, it was very difficult because I didn't get the rights to the music. I should have got it earlier. I should have got the rights earlier.
Right.
And it would have been cheaper, but I didn't. And so when it did get out and to be marketed as a theatrical release, it was too late, and it was in the sense that it would cost more. And so it was sort of left in the can, and so that was it. But it was shown like non-commercial theaters and things like that, you know. And so, but then when it took off, it was like difficult to get a screen because no one wanted to pay that excessive money to get the rights to all this old music in it. And so Milestone came along and was really interested in getting the film marketed, and they spent the time trying to get all the rights, and it took them years to purchase the rights to all the music in the film, because it's basically all music in a lot of parts of it. You know?
Classic music, and it's you can't take it out. I mean, it's part of the art.
Yeah, and so we were lucky. We had some people that were really interested in doing it. Some great people. So that made it happen.
And fast forward to 2017. I mean, it's not just that. By now, you've done dozens of films. You've done films made for TV. You've done theatrical releases, probably the most famous, To Sleep with Anger, but many, many other projects. And now an honorary Academy Award. Did you see that coming?
Nope. No. I didn't. It's strange how these things happen, because, you know, I have some kids, you know, and they were I was busy going somewhere, and I get this phone call, you know, and someone said, well, John Daly said, you know, I want to talk to you. And I said, okay, but I have to run because I'm doing something, you know, whatever it is. Because he didn't tell me what it was. He said, you know, I have a surprise for you. So I said, okay, you know, and I'll be back. And he said, well, call me when you get back. And I was going to the store or something, you know. And so I got back, and my kids were they were small at the time, and was making a lot of noise and everything, so I couldn't hear. And so when I came back, I called him, and he said, well, you know, this is John Daly, and we wanted to give you an award. And I said, well, what is it? He said, well, we want to give you an honorary Academy Award. And I said, well, go right ahead. But I mean,
Go right ahead.
No,
It's hilarious.
because I had, strangely enough, I had these sort of surprises in many ways. Because I remember I got a MacArthur grant.
Yes, the Genius Award is what they call it.
And so again, I got a call in the morning, and the kids were making a lot of noise, and so I didn't really hear what he was saying, and so again they said, "Well, we'll call you back." Okay, and so he called back, and he told me that, well, this is an award. I didn't hear him. So I couldn't understand. So I thought he was talking about maybe your film was going to be on a festival or something. And so when I was talking to him, I didn't understand what he was saying because of the noise in the house. And so we hung up. I was still not clear on what the guy was saying. This was another event, and so they called back, and I thought he was talking about another festival or something, and I was like, just, and I don't know, I couldn't hear very well, and so someone called from a newspaper, and they were talking about. I thought they were talking about Killer Sheep or something like that, and so he was talking to me about that, but I was answering questions to something else, because I couldn't hear very well, and then after I hung up, then someone else called and said, you won this.
Congratulations on your MacArthur Award.
Yeah, I'm like, what? And I said, oh my God, I must have been, the guy must have thought I was crazy, talking about something that wasn't related, anyway. And it was those kinds of things that happened.
And of course, the MacArthur Award, it gives a sum of money to an artist so that they can do something, do their work, an artist or a scholar, so that they can do a project they want to do or do their own work.
Yeah. And I went out, first thing when I found out what it was, I went and put down on a house, and so that was very, very helpful. Particularly when you have kids and stuff like that, no insurance and all that thing. Those kinds of
like
things.
many artists.
Yeah, and so that sort of put me on the map, so to speak, and so it was, some benefits came out of it, and a lot, made it supportive. And those grants give you the opportunity to sort of do what you want to do, and so I was very fortunate.
And that's part of how To Sleep with Anger came about, right? You doing what you wanted to do.
Well, yeah. Well, it came about through. I was at the Berlin Film Festival, and I didn't know what was going on there actually, and then I won a prize at the Berlin Film Festival that was totally unexpected, and so the lady at the Berlin Film Festival who worked for ZDF, a TV network, and she said, well, we saw your film and we want to talk to you about maybe producing one of your films. I said, go right ahead, and so and so that's how I got My Brother's Wedding done. It was through the granting me money to do another film. So anyway, so things happen like that. But the most interesting thing that happened to me was, and I say this because you try to encourage other filmmakers to stay at it, because you never know what's going to happen. Things change, because this would have never happened. I never thought about this would happening to me when I first started filmmaking at UCLA. So.
I mean, one of the things I take away is that you just show up and do the work. You're not worried about an award. You're not worried about an academy. You're not worried about a grant. You're just making movies.
You're surprised to get something,
Yeah.
And but what happened was I was invited to develop a film for CPB, Corporation for Public Broadcast, and so they pay you, in installments, to sort of force you into doing what they want, and so I started writing this film. It was To Sleep with Anger, and they started interfering, like, well, you can't do this, you can't do that, and they mean the producers there, and would say, like, we want you to do your film, okay, but then they start making changes, like, they didn't want the family. It was a story about a black family, it's from the South, and it's this conflict between a younger generation and an older generation, because the younger generation wanted to be like middle class and not interested in the past, and so I started developing the story about this black family, basically, and the conflicts within the family. And so they started wanting to make changes, and so they have a way of making you change things by not paying you on time. And so when you finish, you send in portions at the script at the time, and they would say, you ask them, well, where's the payment, this installment? And they'll say, well, the check is upstairs. And that's the way it's saying to you, make the changes we want, And they kept doing that, and I finally said, no, I can't do that, because that's not what the film is about. And so I figured I have to part company with this particular production thing, and so I asked them for my script back, and they were like, please give it back to me, and they said, because I had mentioned that, well, I just saw a portion of a script that, a story that Horton Foote had did, and about talking about the past in their film, and then I haven't seen in my films where they're talking about the past, and you say I can't do that, and they said, well, you're not Horton Foote,
Wow.
Yeah, and so I wanted my script back to say, well, you'll never be a writer and all this stuff.
What?
Yeah, they wrote this awful letter, and so. But you get so many rejections, so it doesn't really bother you that much anymore. and so so years later, I was in Africa making a film about Samioma and Swapo of Namibia, and so I was finishing post-production on this film after I took my film back from Corporation for Public Broadcast, and I was finishing up a film. I was in post-production in South Africa, and so I get this phone call, like another phone call out of the blue, and so this person says, "Well, we want to give you an award." I said, "Good, okay." They said, "But you have to be here." And I'm in Namibia. I said, "Well, you have to be here because to get." I said, "Well, can't someone else pick it up for me?" No, you have to be here. So, I'm like 14 hours to fly back to the States, and so I can't really. I'm in post-production, and they said, "Well, you have to be here to get it, the award." And so after arguing with this person, I said, "Well, what is the award?" He said, "Well, it's a Horton Foote Writing Award." Yeah.
Full circle moment.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and I come back to the States. I'm in this big old auditorium, and we're talking, and I mentioned to the road would took me to get here, and so they made this big applaud and everything like that, full of people, and everyone, were there, and so that was really rewarding,
Yeah, that's a full circle moment.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
But I was saying that, I bring that up because you wanted to encourage filmmakers, other filmmakers, say, look, just believe in what why you're here, and so forth. So, I mean, you get these opportunities and unexpectedly. But if you're true to what you're doing, and it can happen.
Yeah, and it also sounds like don't be afraid to take it back if you have to stay with what is your vision of the piece.
Otherwise, I keep, it's, I used to work for this agency, this talent agency, and I used to run into situations where you see that other people are doing taking your stories and making what they want of it, and that hurts bad. That really hurts a bit, because you see the discrepancies. I mean, the things that they have no. I mean, are they? It's just like they take your life and make it theirs, and just don't have the sensibilities or anything.
Make it theirs and twist it, yeah.
It's just, and so you fight against that, and luckily you have some support from your community and other filmmakers like yourself and so forth.
Yeah, being grounded in your community. Seems like it makes all the difference. Charles Burnett is my guest, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. These are hard times for housing in America. Too many in our community face barriers to safe housing, behavioral health care, and affirming spaces for healing, particularly those impacted by poverty and stigma or incarceration. Rooted in South LA, Ahmad supports impacted communities through housing, wellness, and leadership development. Ahmad provides culturally responsive, peer-led support from transitional housing and mental health services to leadership development and youth empowerment. They offer safe, affirming houses for youth, transgender women, and formerly incarcerated individuals. Therapy and peer support with a focus on healing trauma in Black communities. HIV prevention and care, free testing, education, and wraparound services for whole person wellness. Standing in the gap with health, housing, and hope. Reach out to Ahmad Institute at 323-569-1610. That's 323-569-1610. Or visit amaad.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Fred Martin, founder of Compton Kids Club. I just want to talk about the authenticity and tell y'all about my homeboy, Tom Steyer. Tom is a rock star. When I met him, Tom gave a grant to schools in San Francisco. All the kids were on probation. We were flying instructors for 2 years to come and help those kids doing performing arts and turning their life around. Some of the kids that he supported, they've graduated from UCLA. Let's fast forward. Tom is in schools in Compton, hanging out with the kids in the piano classes. Brother Tom Steyer hangs out in the studio with us. These are the seeds that he's planted. This has nothing to do with elections. What's coming out of his mouth is not a campaign speech. It's authentic, and when he say he walks away from a business because he want to do his values, he ain't making that up because he's running for governor. This man is real.
Ad paid for by Steyer for Governor 2026.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. The midterm election campaign season is here now. The 2028 presidential election is right around the corner. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build an informed and engaged electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. It's all in for 2026 and 2028. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
My name is Cynthia Mitchell. I've been an emergency room nurse in Los Angeles County for 25 years. I've been there through every fire season, every outbreak, every earthquake. Every time Los Angeles needed us, the doctors and nurses of Los Angeles County showed up. And right now, I'm seeing another disaster coming. Trump's cuts to Los Angeles County's healthcare system are a public health crisis in the making. Medi-Cal, public hospitals, disaster preparedness are all at risk, but we can stop it. Measure ER fights back against these cuts. For a half a penny, we keep emergency rooms open, care within reach for working families, and doctors and nurses serving the communities we love. When you vote yes on Measure ER, you're not just voting for health care, you're voting for LA. Vote yes on Measure ER by June 2nd.
Ad paid for by Yes on ER, Restore Healthcare for Angelinos, sponsored by St. John's Community Health and Health Justice Action Fund. Ad committee top funder, St. John's Community Health.
The conversation continues right now with Dominic DePrima on First Things First.
Filmmaker Charles Burnett as my guest. I wish I had another hour. I have so many questions, but you've been very generous with your time, and you're beyond the Academy Awards. You're also getting an award here, the Origin Award, honoring people who have made a huge impact here in Los Angeles. It honors the 26 founders of African descent who helped establish LA in 1781. They're honoring you for your body of work. And so congratulations. I mean, I know being honored by your own people for your really foundational work has to hit different, as they say. Like, Academy Award is great, but People's Award is wonderful too, I would imagine.
It is, especially coming from here, as it's what you want to make a difference. You want to encourage people to be better, to be creative. And like when I first started film, I never imagined I'll be getting things like this, and being honored for.
That wasn't your why.
No, yeah.
That's not why you did it.
No, but I'm glad. What you mentioned something earlier. What I've gotten out of it was, and that people come up to you, other filmmakers, and say, you changed my whole concept, my whole life in many ways. I got into film because of you, and
that's dope.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, because it costs so much money to make a film.
Yeah. Even a cheap film is expensive. Yeah. Talk to me before we run out of time. I meant to circle back on Birth of a Nation. You mentioned it.
Oh, yes.
And we had to go to news.
Yeah, because, at UCLA, things like that are considered film, that's an art. To say a racist film like that can be considered an art. I mean, the Reconstruction was set, like 1865 on up, or whatever it is, was one of the most progressive periods in American history because of black people getting the freedom to do what they want to do and need to do, And then D.W. Griffith distorted that and made it into made black people look like they couldn't do anything,
And glorified the Klan, and they showed that film in the White House.
Yeah, and it said what was the president at the time was Woodrow Wilson, like it was written on thunder, whatever. It's a really expressive phrase he uses, and people look at that and say, "Well, look at it. It's innovative. It's this and it's work of art," and it's one of the most racist and dangerous films.
Yeah.
And I saw another thing was I saw The Searchers of John Wayne, which is now they record him as being racist and making racist remarks, And he did a film called The Searchers, and I happened to be sitting in a theater with this Native American, and she pointed out to me when his co actor in the film kicked this lady down the slope in this Western film, and I didn't realize it until I was sitting with her, how she stormed out of the theater and said, "That is racist." And it was another case where John Wayne made this image where they look at that as one of the great Western movies.
Wow. Well, I asked you, we just have a couple minutes. I'm going to push the envelope a little bit here. If you see the influence of your work on filmmakers that are out now, I mentioned Sinners. I feel like the way he depicts our community is definitely reflecting some Killer of Sheep. Do you see that?
Well, you find that in not in my particular film, but you have to borrow from somewhere, and it's an honor for someone like him and other filmmakers to say that I borrowed from some things you've done, and that's.
So you do hear that they confess, they share that with you.
Yeah, it's good. And I remember some film. It's really an honor, in many ways, because you never expect it to do that. As long as it's a positive film and so forth, and people have benefited from it, and then it goes on, and other people contribute from that, so it goes on and on and on. You know, that's what it's all about, you know, teaching and, you know, making it possible where it costs so much money to make a film, like I mentioned before, you know, it has to do something, you know, more than just make people laugh and entertain.
It's got to move the crowd. Well, Charles Burnett, thank you for coming in, and thank you for giving us all something to borrow from. You say you got to borrow from somewhere. We appreciate you sharing your artistry with us.
Thank you. I appreciate this occasion here to being here.
And congratulations on all of the awards and all of those phone calls. May many more great phone calls come your way. Drowned out by loud children. Yes, it's much appreciated. The best of Tavis Smiley is up next. He's got the highlights from the week that was. Please remember you can find any of our pods anywhere where podcasts live, and you can find them on YouTube. If you missed this conversation, run it back. I'll see you on social media, KBLA 1580 or DePrima Radio. Until next time, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. A Virginia judge is blocking certification of Tuesday's redistricting referendum, calling it unconstitutional. Virginia Democrat Congressman James Walkinshaw questions whether the election results will actually be appended.
I think it would be outrageous